Hey guys, you know what today is? It's my birthday! Hooray! And yes, by the way, I am 20 years old. I don't know if you guys knew that. However, I still managed to play a lot of games that came out at different times. So I decided that for my 20th birthday, I will put together a list of my favorite games from each year I've been alive. The best game from 2003 to 2023. As for the rules, obviously it has to be one game for each year, but also one game per franchise. This is to avoid Smash Bros. Or Mario or other franchises popping up multiple times. However, spin-offs are allowed. For example, my game of the year for one year can be a mainline Mario game, and my favorite game for another year can be a Mario Kart game. Anyways, without further ado, let's get started. Before I do that, you know what to do. Be sure to like this video, subscribe to hit the bell, leave a comment, or for your next birthday, I will ruin the party. Yeah, I was born in 2003, the year of many great games such as Prince of Persia: Sands of Time, Max Payne 2, Simpsons Hit and Run, and Tony Hawk's Underground. But it mainly came down to Castlevania: Aria of Sorrow and Star Wars: Knights of the Old Republic. And as much as I love Castlevania, I had to go with Knights of the Old Republic. Before being removed from canon, Star Wars KOTOR was one of the best extended universe things ever with Star Wars. It is super expansive and somewhat of a pioneer of its kind, and certainly put BioWare on the map. Not to mention, the mystery surrounding Revan throughout the game is an intriguing one if you somehow don't know the twist, which I don't know how you don't know. You know, it's what this is to video games is basically what Bruce Willis being dead in The Sixth Sense the whole time is to movies, but I guess just you do you. Knights of the Old Republic had a nice cast of characters, a fantastic story, interesting dialogue options, and of course, fun gameplay. And that's why I have Star Wars: Knights of the Old Republic as my game of 2003. On to 2004, this is the year that gave us games such as Half-Life 2, World of Warcraft, Halo 2, and Metal Gear Solid 3 amongst others, but I had to go with Grand Theft Auto: San Andreas. While it's up for debate which GTA game is the best, in my opinion, there really is no option, because San Andreas has some of the most recognizable characters in the franchise, some of the most iconic moments, one of the most iconic locations, and by the way, Samuel L. Jackson is in this game, and you can use a jetpack. Honestly, the fact that you can make a case for GTA 3, Vice City, San Andreas, 4, and 5 all being the best in the franchise speaks volumes to just how good of a franchise GTA is, with just the consistency of quality. But in the year 2004, there is simply no competition. Grand Theft Auto: San Andreas is my game of 2004. 2005 was a very great year for video games. The standouts for me personally are Psychonauts, Resident Evil 4, and Shadow of the Colossus. And this might sound bizarre, but this would have been way more difficult if Mario Kart DS didn't also come out this same year. That's right, I am legitimately picking Mario Kart DS over Psychonauts, Shadow of the Colossus, and Resident Evil 4. And that's because Mario Kart DS was one of the earliest games I've ever played, and I have some serious fond memories. I also believe it is the best Mario Kart. 8 Deluxe is definitely the most popular, but DS's simplicity and purity, and it also simply just holding a special place in my heart, puts it at the top. There really aren't any gimmicks aside from maybe selecting your cart, no crazy new items, and really no new characters aside from Dry Bones, who I kind of main in every Mario Kart game since, when there is no Funky Kong to play as, and also Rob the goddamn robot. That's probably my only issue with Mario Kart DS. The roster is somewhat lacking, but it makes up for it in just how much fun and pure of a Mario Kart game it is, and it's certainly my game of 2005. 2006 was a very significant year for gaming. It was the year the PS3 and Wii released, and those two, along with the Xbox 360 that released the year prior that I didn't mention when I talked about 2005, went on to last a very long time. Some great games that came out in 2006 are Gears of War, Zelda Twilight Princess, Marvel Ultimate Alliance, Elder Scrolls Oblivion, and New Super Mario Bros. But if this is the year that the Wii came out, that means this is the year that Wii Sports came out, and I have to give it the nod. Wii Sports is simply timeless. You have no idea how much I can play this game. And I'm sure you can play this game non-stop as well. But on top of that, this is one of few games that the whole family can play. You, your brothers, your sisters, your mom, your dad, your geriatric grandparents who have never played a video game before and probably have never seen a controller in their lives and probably haven't seen one or played a game since. What I'm saying is that Wii Sports can be enjoyed by anyone. As for the sports involved, while Wii Sports Resort definitely without question has a much wider selection of sports, nothing beats the original Wii Bowling, baseball, boxing, tennis, and Wii Golf. Even though 2006 had a lot of great games, the game of the year has to go to Wii Sports for me personally. Oh man, if you think some of the years I've listed so far had some banger titles, you ain't seen nothing yet. 2007 was the year we got BioShock, Crysis, Halo 3, Modern Warfare, Portal, Team Fortress 2. You want me to keep going? Well, I'll stop there and say that while TF2 and BioShock came very close, Super Mario Galaxy also came out that year, and I have to go with this one. Many people hold Super Mario Galaxy as the best Mario game ever made. Hell, some say it's the greatest game of all time, and honestly, they're not too far off. This is a Mario game unlike any other, throwing the man in space and having him visit worlds and locations that you don't normally see him in, with power-ups you don't normally see him get. Not to mention, this has to be one of, if not the best score in video games. It legit sounds like the score for a big-budget, epic blockbuster film. Super Mario Galaxy revolutionized Mario and honestly 3D platformers, and without question is my game of 2007. – 2008 was a tricky one. This was the year that games like Super Smash Bros. Brawl, Left 4 Dead, and GTA 4 came out, but I'm sticking to my one game per franchise rule, and I've used the GTA pick already with San Andreas, and I'll get to the other two a bit later. Maybe a spoiler, you know? Or two spoilers, I don't know. While 2008 also saw the release of fantastic games like Dead Space, Fallout 3, Metal Gear Solid 4, amongst others, I'm going to go with a rather unconventional pick and go with Mega Man 9. It was a really exciting return to form for the Mega Man franchise, and while the 2D art style implies that Mega Man is only good in 2D, it's a rather nice callback as I see it. Not to mention, Mega Man 9 is the most challenging Mega Man game that isn't complete bullshit, and the music might not be as good as Mega Man 2 or 10, but I think it is in third place. I mean, have you heard We Are the Robots? Again, Mega Man 9 might not be your usual game of the year, but I have no problem awarding it my game of 2008. – 2009 was a decent year for gaming, but not a crazy one. We got games like Dragon Age Origins, Borderlands, Brutal Legend, and Ghostbusters the video game, but also had Left 4 Dead 2, and that is my pick. Left 4 Dead 2 is a thrilling and intense first-person shooter game that pits players against hordes of infected zombies. The game's fast-paced action, coupled with its challenging gameplay and cooperative multiplayer mode, make it an engaging and exciting experience for anyone. It also takes what made the first Left 4 Dead game and just makes it better. It's a better version of an already fantastic game. I usually bash on live service games, but Left 4 Dead 2 is one of few examples of a live service game getting it right. Not to mention, visually, for the time at least, Left 4 Dead 2 looks great. 2009, like I said, might not have been the craziest year for gaming, but Left 4 Dead 2 is without question my pick for the best game of 2009. So 2009 might have been rather quiet and not as crazy when it comes to video games, but I guess that was to prepare us for the absolutely stacked year that was 2010. This is just some of the games that came out. Super Mario Galaxy 2, Red Dead Redemption, Fallout New Vegas, God of War 3, Super Meat Boy, Alan Wake. There is so much to choose from, but the one I went with and didn't mention until now is Mass Effect 2. This is possibly BioWare at their storytelling best. It's crazy how decisions you make in the first game affect the story of this game. Not to mention, there are many moments in this game that are some of the most iconic in video game history, and Elusive Man is one of the best villains in video games. It's also one of the most replayable games of all time because of the amount of dialogue options that make the story play out differently and experience the 2 different endings. Mass Effect 2 is a timeless game that shows the glory days of BioWare, and of course, it's my game of 2010. And you thought 2010 was a crazy year for gaming. 2011 had Skyrim, Portal 2, Batman Arkham City, LA Noire, Dead Space 2, Marvel vs. Capcom 3, and many more. But there's one game that I didn't mention that it ultimately went to, and that is Minecraft. Now technically, Minecraft was in early access in 2009, but its full release was in 2011, so it's my game of 2011, and honestly, what about Minecraft has not already been said? Not much, that's for sure. There is a reason Minecraft took over the world in the way it did. There is a reason Minecraft is the best-selling game ever, and kind of by a landslide. And that is because Minecraft is a game with no rules, no objectives, no story. It's just you, maybe your friends, and this world that you can build in and do whatever you want. Minecraft is certainly a game that can be enjoyed by anyone and everyone. I really feel like there is something anybody can love about Minecraft. And I get shocked whenever I hear someone say that they've never played Minecraft, because it's like, how? And the fact that it is just as fun, if not even more fun, with all the updates over 10 years later, means that it is without question my game of 2011. So after 2010 and 2011 giving us a wide variety of banger games, 2012 was a bit more dry. That's not to say we didn't get any good games, as we did get the Wii U, new console, but we don't really want to talk about the Wii U. Some of the games we did get, though, include The Walking Dead, Far Cry 3, Borderlands 2, Hotline Miami, and CSGO. But I'm gonna cheat a little bit and pick Fire Emblem Awakening. Now, how is that cheating? Well, in Japan, it came out in 2012, but internationally, it was released in 2013. But spoiler alert, 2013 was a much more stacked year, and while 2012 has some great games, I have the most attachment to Fire Emblem Awakening, so I'm just gonna slip Fire Emblem Awakening into 2012. This was the Fire Emblem game that the whole franchise depended on. If this game didn't sell well, Fire Emblem was done. Luckily, Fire Emblem Awakening was successful and sold very well. The cast of characters is one of the most memorable casts of characters in the franchise. Hell, Chrom was even cool enough for people to actually want him in Smash. The story is engaging and the turn-based combat is a lot of fun. I know it's cheating a little bit, but Fire Emblem Awakening is my game of 2012. So I mentioned that 2013 was a pretty stacked year for gaming, and I mean, it was. Like, even just beyond the video games, 2013 saw the release of the PS4 and Xbox One. Holy shit, those are gonna be 10 years old this year. But as for games that came out in 2013, there's a lot. BioShock Infinite, Rayman Legends, Tomb Raider, and The Wolf Among Us are just a few games from 2013, but it ultimately came down to 2. Grand Theft Auto 5 and The Last of Us. And when I say it came down to 2, I mean it came down to The Last of Us because I already used GTA for 2004 with San Andreas. I feel like people have turned their backs on The Last of Us over the years. Probably since the sequel came out and the remake didn't do it any favors. But let's not get it twisted. The original Last of Us is exceptional. Some of, if not the greatest storytelling in any game ever, feeling as cinematic as a video game can get. The Last of Us gave us one of the most memorable stories in video game history, with one of the most memorable cast of characters too. It's no wonder that when The Last of Us was adapted into a series, it is the best video game adaptation bar none. But even then, you truly haven't experienced The Last of Us if you haven't played it. Again, people have turned on this game because of what followed, but The Last of Us is without question my game of 2013. 2014 was a weird year for gaming. It wasn't a bad year at all, but it's filled with a lot of games that I feel like would have gotten overshadowed in some other packed years. Some great games that came out in 2014 include Bayonetta 2, Middle-earth: Shadow of Mordor, Dragon Age Inquisition, Wolfenstein New Order, Dark Souls 2, Tomodachi Life I really liked, and of course, if you know, Smash 4. And it probably would be Smash 4, but I'm not ready to use up Smash quite yet, so I'm gonna pick one game I didn't name that I think might be a game to put indie games on the map. I'm talking about Shovel Knight. Shovel Knight is a strange idea that shouldn't work nearly as well as it does. You play as a knight who uses a shovel instead of like a sword or shield or lance or axe or anything like that, and the game plays like DuckTales mixed with a bit of Mega Man mixed with some other old 2D retro platformers. However, Shovel Knight takes all those aspects and ideas and absolutely nails all of them. Shovel Knight is challenging on the right level, music and aesthetic works, and the extra DLC content makes Shovel Knight a game I can play for a very long time. All that and more makes Shovel Knight my game of 2014. "2015 marks the year I started to make YouTube videos, and was the first year I really started to follow video games. And by that I mean Nintendo, but over the years I've widened my horizons and interests. Anyways, 2015 was another solid year for gaming, as we got games like Metal Gear Solid 5, Fallout 4, Arkham Knight, Splatoon, Bloodborne, Rocket League, Undertale. A very stacked year indeed. However, it came down to Super Mario Maker and The Witcher 3 for me. And while I have way more fond memories of Mario Maker, my pick has to go to The Witcher 3. This is one of the most detailed, expansive, beautiful games ever made. It even looks really good on the Switch. The Witcher 3 has many story options too, allowing for the story to play out in multiple different ways, creating multiple different endings, giving players an incentive to play the game over and over and over again. And then throw in the DLC expansions. Not to mention the detail in this game. One example, Geralt's beard grows throughout the game. That's detail if I've ever seen. Not to mention the soundtrack being one of the best of any game ever, and the story being very compelling, and you got an easy pick for the best game of 2015. "2016 kinda took it a little easy after 2015, but we definitely got some great games. Dark Souls 3, Inside, Dishonored 2, Titanfall 2, Battlefield 1, Final Fantasy 15, Stardew Valley, all great games, but there are three in particular: Doom, Uncharted 4, and Overwatch. But Activision Blizzard can go fuck themselves, so it's between Uncharted 4 and Doom, and I ultimately went with Uncharted 4. Uncharted 4, or its full title that nobody really calls it by, Uncharted 4: A Thief's End, brings a story and a world that is pretty incredible. It also delivers a combat system that just does nothing but improves upon just about all the other Uncharted games and what made those great. The story of Uncharted 4 might be the best story in the entire franchise, as it finishes up the story of Nathan Drake and does so very well. When it comes to Naughty Dog, love them or hate them, games like this shows that they can make some bangers, so therefore, Uncharted 4 is my game of 2016. "2017 might be amongst the craziest years in gaming yet. I mean, this year was fucking packed. It was the release of the Switch, which already, like, whenever a new console comes out, that's crazy enough. But then here are some of the games that came out in 2017. Super Mario Odyssey, Horizon Zero Dawn, Persona 5, Nier Automata, Sonic Mania, Cuphead, Resident Evil 7, Wolfenstein 2, Injustice 2, Mario and Rabbids. Like, I can go on and on and on, but you might have noticed that I didn't mention a little known game called Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild. I don't know if you've heard of it. And that, without question, has to be my game of 2017. What can I say about Breath of the Wild that hasn't already been said? It absolutely revolutionized the open world genre. People will try to twist that into a negative now, but this was the first open world game where you see something, you can go to it. You want to fight Ganon after just starting the game? Go ahead, and good luck. And if this wasn't the first open world game to do this, it was the first one to really perfect it. Not to mention, the soundtrack is amazing, and the cel-shaded graphics give the game a very distinct look, and Breath of the Wild is simply just a magnum opus. It is without question my game of 2017, but at the time of recording, Tears of the Kingdom is not out yet, and by the time this comes out, it'll still not be out, so who knows what will happen with this list in just a week's time. 2018 was also a pretty crazy year for gaming. I don't know if it was as crazy as 2017, but that's a high bar, alright? Some of the games from 2018 include God of War, Red Dead Redemption 2, Spider-Man, Celeste, Monster Hunter World, Dragon Ball FighterZ, The Messenger, Mega Man 11, and just a whole lot more that I can go on and on and on about. And my game of 2018 would be God of War if Super Smash Bros. Ultimate didn't also come out that year. If you guys are familiar with this channel, y'all should know that Smash is my favorite game franchise, and I've talked about Ultimate so much that I'm honestly sick of doing so. The amount of characters on display, the content, the sheer crossover aspect, Smash Ultimate had to be in this spot, and I'm honestly gonna cut this one short because I'm not even kidding when I say I have nothing new to say about Smash Ultimate because I've talked about it so much, other than the fact that it is without a shadow of a doubt my game of 2018. After the back-to-back banger years that were 2017 and 2018, 2019 was not as crazy. We definitely got some really good games. Games like Sekiro, Resident Evil 2 Remake, Fire Emblem Three Houses, Luigi's Mansion 3, Super Mario Maker 2, and even Mortal Kombat 11 were all games I really liked, but my pick for 2019 is definitely Devil May Cry 5. While maybe not the best DMC game and definitely the easiest, the story of this game is really solid, with some interesting twists and turns, and the way that the game switches between Dante, Nero, and Newcomer V is really cool, and each three of those playable characters are a lot of fun. The combat also makes this game so much fun with the added parkour mechanics, and there is just a lot to love. I also gotta say that of all the Devil May Cry games, DMC 5 has to have the best soundtrack. It goes fucking hard. While 2019 was a rather quiet year for gaming, at least in comparison to the previous 2 years, we got a real gem with Devil May Cry 5. I'm sure when I say the year 2020, it probably makes a lot of you vomit on command, but the one medium that I think still went strong in 2020 and didn't get as affected by the pandemic as much as maybe movies or sports or television did is video games. And we got some really good games. Not to mention, a whole new console generation with the PS5 and Xbox Series came out, but some of the great games that came out were Final Fantasy VII Remake, Doom Eternal, Not The Last of Us Part 2, Animal Crossing New Horizons, Hades, and I even liked Cyberpunk when it came out. But my game of 2020 is Ghost of Tsushima. This is an incredible and replayable game with a very compelling narrative and great characters with some action and combat that is so unique. And ready for this? Are you guys ready for what the combat does? It makes you feel like a samurai. Plus, the story is really damn good as you follow Jin Sakai and you see certain struggles he goes through on his journey. Many of the boss fights are a lot of fun, and there's certain moments where you fight multiple enemies where it feels like a boss fight, and it's so much fun. And that ending, the choice you have to make, and it's up to you. Do you think it's the right choice or the wrong choice? Whichever one is the right choice, you know, so it's almost like the good or bad ending depends on what you think the good ending or the right choice is, if that made any sense. All this and more makes Ghost of Tsushima my game of 2020. Remember when I said that the pandemic didn't really affect gaming too much in 2020? Well, I think we really felt the effects of the pandemic in 2021, because we got a lot of great games in 2021, but I feel like most people won't even be able to tell you what won game of the year. Regardless though, here are some of the great games that came out in 2021. Metroid Dread, It Takes Two, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, Deathloop, Resident Evil Village, Guilty Gear Strive, Forza Horizon 5, and Returnal, to name a few, but my game of 2021 is Psychonauts 2. To put it in perspective, I believe the original Psychonauts 2 is one of the greatest hidden gems ever made, and Psychonauts 2 is an upgrade in every possible way. Psychonauts 2 is incredible down to the gameplay, story, aesthetic, and even its subject matter. Those last two things I named are the ultimate contrasts, by the way. The aesthetic gives shades of some older Nickelodeon shows, but the subject matter is really dark and mature, and I think the game is very brave for touching on stuff like mental scars and depression. All the mechanics and abilities are smooth and nice additions, and all the different worlds are really fun. While 2021 was not the best year in gaming, it definitely had a banger with Psychonauts 2, and it's my pick for the best game of 2021. We come to 2022, and I remember going into 2022 expecting an insane year for gaming, and while it started and ended great, we kinda overhyped it overall. But still, some great games came out. Some of those included Horizon Forbidden West, A Plague Tale Requiem, TMNT Shredder's Revenge, Live Alive, Stray, Bayonetta 3, Kirby and the Forgotten Land, and more. But it came down to Elden Ring and God of War Ragnarok, and I'm sure most of you watching would say Elden Ring. And while it is an amazing game that even I, someone who isn't the biggest fan of Souls games, really enjoyed it, I went with God of War Ragnarok. I feel this game has its detractors saying it's too similar to the first game, or at least the 2018 game. I guess you can kind of call that the first game, and say it's too similar for a little too much of the game, but I see it as a sequel that takes the original game, and, you know, that game was already short on flaws and made it even better. Not to mention, I think Kratos might have a top 3 greatest arc in video games, and seeing how he originally started in the original Greek mythology games and seeing how far he has come is masterfully done. And the many new gameplay mechanics and the story beats and other character arcs makes it my pick for the best game of 2022. And we are up to the now, in the current year, 2023. This was an interesting entry because, well, we're not done yet. But seeing how this year is shaping up and seeing how some of the games we've gotten already are really great, this year might end up beating 2017. However, as for now, some of the best games of this year are Hogwarts Legacy, Hi-Fi Rush, Dead Space Remake, Metroid Prime Remastered, and I mean, at the time of recording, Jedi Survivor and Redfall have not come out yet, but I am holding out hope. I'm assuming they're good. I'm more hopeful about Jedi Survivor. Redfall is the one I really need to hold out hope for. But as of right now, my current game of the year is without question Resident Evil 4 Remake. I wasn't so sure about this game originally because I didn't think Resident Evil 4 needed a remake, but this makes Resident Evil 4 into a horror game, which does a lot to improve a game that is already a masterpiece. There are other story elements that they added which are all really cool. Many new gameplay mechanics, like the stealth mechanics, make this a remake that more than justifies its existence. Here's the thing, though. In any normal year, Resident Evil 4 would be an early shoo-in for Game of the Year. And it might be, but seeing how we are still waiting for games like Tears of the Kingdom, Street Fighter 6, Final Fantasy 16, Starfield, and Spider-Man 2, I'm not sure this will be my number 1 by the end of the year, which is crazy because I gave this game a 10 out of 10. But regardless, without question, Resident Evil 4 Remake is my game of 2023 so far. And that does it! Happy birthday to me, thanks for watching. What's your favorite, maybe you don't, I don't know if you want to do your favorite game from each year you've been alive, necessarily, but you know, why not at least some of the games where, or some of the years you've been alive. And want to let me know anything down below, let me know. Anyways, be sure to comment, subscribe, or I will ruin your birthday.